Hello friends, welcome to Defense Matrix. On this channel you will get fully information about defense and technology. See the videos about world forgotten histories on this channel. Let's view the video. World War I, the birth of American firepower. The Great War begins. Why America stayed neutral at first. When the First World War erupted in 1914, the world was plunged into chaos. Empires clashed, trenches scarred the earth, and millions of soldiers fought in what was then the most devastating conflict in history. But across the Atlantic, the United States remained curiously quiet. Why? President Woodrow Wilson declared a stance of neutrality, insisting that the U.S. should be impartial in thought as well as in action. The horrors of European warfare felt distant to many Americans, who were more concerned with domestic growth than global conflict. Yet beneath the surface, neutrality was fragile. American industry began quietly supplying arms and ammunition to Allied powers like Britain and France, creating the economic seeds of involvement. Then came the turning point, the sinking of the Lusitania in 1915 by a German U-boat, killing 128 Americans. Tensions escalated, and when Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare and the infamous Zimmermann telegram surfaced, proposing a German-Mexican alliance against the U.S., the nation could no longer stand by. In April 1917, the U.S. entered the war. But America wasn't just sending soldiers, it was about to unleash a technological and industrial giant onto the world stage. From peacetime to powerhouse, how the U.S. mobilized overnight. America's entry into World War I was a wake-up call. At the time, its military ranked 17th globally, smaller than Portugal's. Yet within months, the U.S. transformed from a peaceful industrial nation into a full-blown war machine. Factories that once made bicycles and farm equipment suddenly churned out rifles, artillery, and tanks. The Selective Service Act of 1917 drafted millions of men, creating the American Expeditionary Forces, AF, under General John J. Pershing. But it wasn't just manpower, it was innovation. To meet wartime demand, the U.S. government launched massive production programs, partnering with private industries in a way never seen before. Ford's assembly lines were adapted for military trucks, shipyards sprang up overnight, and a wave of scientific research emerged to create more lethal, reliable weaponry. The speed was staggering. In less than 2 years, America built an army, equipped it, trained it, and shipped it to Europe. And it did all this while developing technologies that would change warfare forever. The world took notice. America had arrived not just as a participant, but as a superpower in the making. Engineering the arsenal, America's breakthrough military tech, behind the roaring guns and marching boots was a quiet revolution, technology. World War I wasn't just a war of men, it was a war of machines. And America, despite its late entry, brought a fresh wave of innovation that stunned the battlefield. Enter the Springfield M1903 rifle, a precision weapon known for its deadly accuracy. American troops carried it with pride. But it was the arrival of John Browning's legendary designs that truly changed the game. The Browning M1917 machine gun offered superior reliability and firepower, capable of sustained fire in the mud and blood of trench warfare. America's engineering prowess didn't stop there. They pioneered mobile artillery units, allowing big guns to move with advancing troops, a tactical advantage in static trench warfare. Engineers introduced advanced field telephones for real-time communication, and mass-produced barbed wire, grenades, and gas masks to counter German chemical weapons. One of the biggest game-changers? The Liberty engine. Designed and built in just days, it powered aircraft and tanks alike, redefining mobility in war. The U.S. wasn't just catching up, it was outpacing. For the first time, war wasn't just about bravery, it was about who had the best tech. And America had just stepped into that arena with full force. Firepower revolution, the rise of American artillery might. When American troops arrived in Europe, they didn't just bring boots, they brought the thunder of artillery. In World War I, artillery caused over 60% of battlefield casualties. And America quickly understood, the war would be won not just by men, but by machines that could tear the earth apart. At the heart of this revolution were 75mm field guns, 155mm howitzers, and massive railway guns capable of obliterating enemy trenches from miles away. American engineers worked closely with the French to develop and enhance artillery systems. The result? Faster loading, greater range, and deadly precision, but this wasn't just about size, it was about coordination. For the first time, the U.S. military implemented spotter planes and forward observers to direct artillery fire in real time. These innovations allowed for synchronized barrage fire, where artillery shells landed just ahead of advancing troops, softening enemy defenses seconds before an attack. Artillery became the backbone of American firepower, a destructive force that reshaped enemy lines and morale. Soldiers in the trenches often described it as hell raining from the sky. In a war of grinding attrition, it was the gun, not just the soldier, that decided who would survive. The air war takes off. America's early military aviation. When the U.S. entered World War I, it had fewer than 300 aircraft, most of them outdated and unreliable. By war's end, that number had skyrocketed to over 15,000. The era of American air power had officially begun, and it would never look back. The birth of the U.S. Army Air Service introduced a thrilling new dimension to warfare. Planes weren't just for scouting anymore, they were built to fight, bomb, and dominate the skies. American manufacturers began producing SPADs, DH-4 bombers, and even licensed French designs to ensure rapid deployment. But it wasn't just the machines, it was the men who piloted them. Names like Eddie Rickenbacker, America's top World War I ace, became legendary. These knights of the sky engaged in dogfights over the trenches, often with nothing but leather helmets and nerves of steel. Technology advanced fast. Pilots used onboard machine guns, synchronized to fire through spinning propellers, and bombing techniques that would later evolve into strategic air campaigns in World War II. The use of spotter planes for coordinating artillery strikes changed battlefield tactics forever. Though still in its infancy, American military aviation was fearless and ambitious. World War I lit the fuse for a century of air superiority, and the U.S. would soon lead the world in sky warfare. Trench tactics. Technological warfare. Imagine a battlefield where every inch of ground was a death trap. That was trench warfare, muddy, brutal, and unforgiving. When American forces arrived in Europe, they had to quickly adapt to this alien form of combat. But what made the U.S. stand out was how rapidly it learned to combine tactical movement with cutting-edge tech. Trenches stretched for miles, laced with barbed wire, mines, and machine guns. Traditional frontal attacks were suicidal. So, American forces innovated. They used creeping barrages, artillery shells walking ahead of advancing troops, to shield movements. They relied heavily on portable communication systems like field phones and signal flares to coordinate attacks in real time. Technology made a deadly difference. The U.S. introduced flamethrowers, smoke bombs, and gas masks to counter German chemical warfare. Engineers built trench mortars and lightweight grenade launchers, perfect for close-quarters destruction. Even the humble helmet saw transformation. The American M1917 steel helmet saved countless lives from shrapnel and debris. Every small detail mattered. World War I wasn't just about brute strength. It was about who could fight smarter, with better tech and faster coordination. And in the muddy chessboard of the trenches, the U.S. military proved it was learning fast and winning. The human edge. American soldiers and battlefield strategy. While machinery and firepower were critical, the true engine of victory was the American soldier. Nicknamed doughboys, these men were often young, untested, and far from home, but they brought a new energy and unbreakable morale to the battlefields of Europe. General John J. Pershing, head of the American Expeditionary Forces, insisted that U.S. troops wouldn't be scattered among European armies, they would fight independently. This allowed the U.S. to apply its own strategies, emphasizing mobility, aggressive offense, and combined arms tactics. American training focused on marksmanship, maneuver warfare, and adapting to technological threats. Troops learned how to deal with machine guns, gas attacks, and barbed wire. They were taught to move in small squads, use cover effectively, and take initiative, skills that would become the foundation of modern infantry tactics, and when they fought, they made an impact. From the Battle of Cantigny to the Meuse-Argonne offensive, American soldiers demonstrated resilience and bravery. Their fresh presence tipped the scales, especially as other Allied forces were exhausted after years of trench warfare. But it wasn't just numbers, it was innovation. The U.S. implemented rapid medical evacuation systems, introduced new rifle grenades, and supported troops with rolling artillery and air support. The soldier was no longer a lone rifleman, he was part of a coordinated, tech-enabled strike force. And that human-tech synergy changed how wars would be fought forever. Legacy of firepower. World War I was more than a conflict, it was the forge that shaped America's military identity. Before the war, the U.S. was a regional power with a modest army. After World War I, it emerged as a global military and industrial force, setting the foundation for 20th century dominance. The war taught America how to mass-produce weaponry, build air fleets, and coordinate combined arms operations. It showed the importance of scientific innovation in warfare and proved the need for a standing, ready military even in peacetime. Tactics learned in the trenches, technologies tested in battle, and strategies honed under fire became the blueprint for World War II and beyond. America's role in NATO, its nuclear advancements, and its ability to project power globally all trace back to the lessons of World War I. The era of American firepower had begun, and it hasn't stopped since. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel Defense Matrix for more interesting videos.